Hello, and welcome to another episode of What's on Your Mind. I'm your host, Nimadi Belu, or That African Butterfly. So it is the last Sunday of Women's History Month. I love Women's History Month because I'm one of those girls. I love any opportunity to up women and give us power and empower us and say how awesome we're doing. So I love Women's History Month. I go crazy. Um, and I couldn't think of a better way to end this month than to talk to one of my favorite women, a woman who I look up to, who I consider a role model, my sister Aja Ajavan. Hello, Ajavi, or Aja. We'll go with
Hello,
Aja for the
hello,
night.
hello. How are you doing today?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me.
My pleasure.
Now, before we get started, a little bit about Aja. I'm going to have her tell you a little bit about her because she is a powerhouse with a resume that is so long and she's done so many impressive things and gotten impressive awards and just she's such a asset to the community. She loves the community and
Wow.
does so much in the community. So there's just too many things to list. I'm going to let her introduce herself so she can tell you her favorite points to know about herself. Aja, please tell us a little bit about you.
Wow. Whew. I mean, Hi everyone. My name is Ajawavi, Ajavan. Everyone calls me Aja because it's a little bit easier on the tongue. I am an entrepreneur, a mother, a philanthropist, uh, you name it, God, a founder, creator. Love
All the
helping
things.
people, humanitarian, love it.
Yes, and
Um,
we love that for you, and we love having you. So, like I've mentioned, Aja is just one of my role models. Like sometimes, and I'm just like, oh, I'm too tired. Like there's no I'm too tired in Aja's book. There's no I'm too busy in Aja's book. Like
ooh,
she gets it done. She says she's going to do something, she gets it done. She says she's going to be somewhere, she is there. I strive to have her level of consistency. I got a ways to go. Okay, I'm working on it. But
yeah,
having her as a role model is wonderful, having her around. So, one of the things
thank
about you,
you.
Aja, though, is I feel like a phrase that I've heard attached to you or described you as is an alpha female. Now, some people love that phrase, some people hate that phrase. Let's start with like, what does that mean to you? Like when you hear alpha female, what comes to mind?
Wow. When I hear alpha female, I hear, oh, she's a boss lady. She walks the room. She walks in the room and she owns the room. Um, she's a powerhouse. She doesn't give up. She's relentless. She can go toe to toe with a guy in any fashion, any business fashion. So that's what I hear. And I hear that a
Mhm.
lot.
Yeah. And do you like the phrase alpha
Because of what I
female?
do on a daily basis. I don't mind it. I mean, it depends on how it's used. If it's used in a derogatory way, then no. If it's used to employ and empower me, yes, absolutely. Because some people might use it derogatorily to insult the person, you know, and be condescending. And some people might generally means that you're doing the damn thing or you're doing great and we're proud of you or I look up to you. So, but I like it if it's used in the proper way.
Now, my question for you also though is like, do you? Because when I think of all of those things when I think of alpha female, and I think as something that I have definitely, especially over the last like 10 years or so, my 30s decade, have really like strived to be more like right. Like I was always like the people pleaser and always going out of my way to make like other people feel good and like whatever. And now I'm like, what would Beyonce do? And I take charge, and I love that for myself. I love that for myself, but it's definitely something that I
What would be my
strive for to
favorite?
be an alpha
Mhm.
female, like to think like you, honestly. I think about you and what you would do in certain situations or how you would handle things. So for me, being an alpha female is something that I strive towards and that I work towards. Some people do ascribe it to me. I say, thank you so much. I don't feel it, but thank you. I'm glad you see it. But like, was it something you strove for, or was it something you landed with that was always just your personality?
It has not been my personality, first of all. Let me clear that up. Because people tells me, a lot of people tell me, wow, you must have been born with this personality. No, I wasn't. I probably was, but in between adolescent and adulthood, I didn't have this personality. I had the
Mhm.
lowest self-esteem. I thought myself not worthy of many things. Other people didn't see that though. However, they saw me back then as an adolescent, as an alpha female.
Hmm.
But culturally, we're not raised to be alpha females. So it
Oh,
was a
and
little
just really
different.
quick just to interrupt really quick, for those who may know, we're both Liberian. We were born in Liberia. So
Yes.
when she says culturally, she's talking about the Liberian culture specifically, not just African American culture.
Yes. African from the
African
continent.
culture, yes.
Women were not taught or brought up to be alpha females. So it's a little difficult to walk in that shoe that I really try to bring myself into as an adolescent. Growing up as an adult is when I really found my voice. So in my I want to say late teens, wouldn't say early 20s, because I think this started when I was like 17, 18 in high school and then college. I decided to take on a couple of roles that my female counterparts wouldn't take up, like challenge, have debates, be the only female in a debate session with the males in my classes, go and play football. You guys say soccer, we say football, challenging myself to be the only female on the football team. So, I always like challenges like that, even when I went to college. I always try to be like change the narrative of what a woman can and cannot do. So yes, I never had that strong alpha female, even though I think it was in me, but I never could display it as a child because of my background, my historical, my family and my cultural background.
That's such a good point because I mean, obviously we have similar backgrounds. Um, and I don't know. And I think for me, it's a mix of that and then just like my childhood. So something that I've talked about on the air before, and Aja and I have talked about is the history of domestic violence. So her dad, my stepdad. And so that for me really triggered my people pleasing, really triggered me to be like, oh, let me just not make anyone upset. Let me not rock any boats. But like when you say you think it was always a part of you and you just had to come out later, sometimes I feel like that for me as well. It feels like, and one of my favorite quotes is like, growing up isn't becoming who you are. It's like removing all the parts of you that people put on you to be who you really are. So it's not about changing yourself, it's finding yourself. And I feel like as I get older, it's more like that. So even like when I talk about like alpha females like Beyonce or you or whatever, as my guidance for what I see and to help me be that alpha female, I realize part of the reason why I lean towards it is because it's always been within me to be that person, right? Like even in high school, like I was starting new clubs, I was president of everything. In college, I was president of all the clubs and doing all the things. And even in corporate, I was the one speaking up at meetings. So, but I think because in my head, I was scared AF while I was doing it, I was shaking in my boots. So, like, to me, it wasn't big power moves. It was just living. But like for other people, they saw it as more of a power thing. But it wasn't until I became an adult that I'm like, no, like, I want to be that. Like, it's almost like wanting to be that person that other people have seen you as, but that you haven't seen yourself as. Is that kind of like what your transition to being more of that part of yourself was as an adult?
Somewhat, I guess I pretty much, I just wanted to prove myself to others. Because, you have this stereotype, and especially me, I'm a lot older than you. Back in the day, women were not generally doing what I'm doing now. What I see women doing now is phenomenal. Back in the day, women were taught to be housewives, and you have the children, and you submit yourself, and you become you lead. No, well, you are led by your counterpart, your spouse or your paramour. And it was all those types of things, and we saw a lot of other women trying to break the barriers, like Barbara Jordan and Shirley Chisholm. All those women who were great, who I look up to, breaking barriers and making changes. And you're like, wow, you don't hear about that, and you don't hear that many women doing that. So for me, that was some of the reasons why I decided to do and become who I am. a change maker, because I felt like if they could do it in an era where it wasn't even thought of, or it was against, women, I can do it.
Mhm.
And then it started small and then it grew. For instance, when I started being a philanthropist, I didn't even know what a philanthropy was when I started doing this in 2014. And it wasn't something that I went back home and said, I'm going to start doing this and I'm going to start paying people's tuition. I'm going to start sewing into the education. Hello. Once I'm on a video. And so I didn't know that, I didn't go to Liberia to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I went there on vacation with my son, and then I saw things that really changed my mindset and also changed my son's. He was only 12, 13 at the time.
My little
And,
Davidi,
yeah, little Davidi. And it
that's
changed
your
a
youngest.
lot about
That's my little
me.
baby nephew.
Yes, since 2014, it changed because I saw people who were affected by the war. And that was the same year Ebola had hit our country. So there was a lot of death from the north and a lot of children who were orphaned because their parents were either killed in the war or killed by Ebola. So I felt it upon my heart to do something and start, supplying or taking care of these kids, making sure they get an education. So that's when I started. So it wasn't like I was like, I'm going to be a philanthropist. I didn't know what it was until I came back to the United States and I started telling them my story to different funders. And they suggested, well, why don't you open a foundation that will help you do this? And that's when I did. I opened a foundation in 2021. Mind you, I started this in 2014, April, to be exact. And 2021, I rolled it over to a foundation and we're continuing. We've put several students through high school, now college, and some have graduated from college. We have younger kids now that are starting pre-K or elementary school. Because as you know, in most third world country, you have to pay for education. It is not free from
Mhm.
kindergarten all the way up to college level. It may not be as much as we think it is, but the parents and the families in those countries cannot afford to send their children to school. So it costs,
Mhm.
to send a child to, for instance, to send a child to primary school for a year, it'll cost me $200. Now, that $200, I can spend $200 in the United States in 2 hours. That's
And
taking a
do.
child, that's paying for tuition for a whole year.
Yeah.
They're getting that education, and I've been doing that since 2014. So, those are some of the things that, I don't look for accolades. I just do it.
No,
So,
and it's good, and you do so much for the community, and it's nice hearing like sort of where that came from. I think everybody does it for different reasons. There are people who do, the wonderful things for the accolades, and okay, fine, if that's what moves you. I love that you are moved by like seeing the need and wanting to just help, like no matter what, no matter how, you're just like, how can I jump in and help? Because that's what drives you. I do a lot with the community, but that's because like I have learned that it offsets my depression a little bit. Sometimes I get overwhelmed just feeling helpless about like how terrible things are. And I've learned that like if I give back and if I do things, I feel less helpless. I feel like, okay, I
mm,
can't change the world, but I can change this person's world, or I can impact this one person, or I can help spread this information to this group of people. And like for me, like the offset of helplessness is doing something. So like having
that's
things to
nice.
do and like giving back helps. And thank you.
Mhm,
And so like I love having also like your organization to help. Like you guys are always doing something. Every Man Counts is you have your foundation,
mhm,
and then you also have Every Man
yes,
Counts here in Wilmington. I was the executive
mhm.
director for a while. I loved it. And it's thriving and doing awesome. You just celebrated 10 years. Can you just tell us a little bit more about Every Man Counts?
I will do that. And I call Every Man Counts my baby. I'm very proud of that nonprofit that we started. I'm proud of everything I've started, even though
As you
some of
should
it
be.
didn't span out
By
to
the
be
way,
anything great and it fell to the wayside.
I know there's a delay in us, but I
What?
was going to say, by the
I
way, as you should be. And I love that you champion yourself. And I think that that's something that's very important. And it's also very hard for women to do. Like, even me, I mean, now I may have gone off the deep end. I talk my shit all the time. But before, it took me a minute. And part of that I learned from you, from being like, yes, I did this awesome thing. Yes, I am great. Like, why do I have to pretend like I'm not when I am? It's just a fact. So, like, I love that you've been vocal and that you are and continue to be vocal about the great things that you do.
Yeah, so the thing about it is my grandmother always said, if you don't toot your own horn, nobody will. So sometimes you have to pat yourself on the back, whether you achieve something or not. Just the idea that you try to do it, even if it fails, is an accomplishment to me
Mhm.
because you
Mhm.
took that bold step to do that, right? So
Yeah.
no matter the outcome, it is still an accomplishment. But Every Man Counts started when I was in graduate school, and I did my thesis on reducing the recidivism rate in the state of Delaware and understanding the reasons why men return to prison, were reincarcerated. Majority of the men that were reincarcerated during the time I was doing my research were basically, you know, throughout the state was different. Some lower Delaware was basically they were being reincarcerated because of theft. Middle Delaware was because of theft and child support. The northern part of Delaware were criminal crimes, serious crimes, and also family court issues. So, as a mediator at the time, I was working with family court in Delaware. So I started doing my survey because when you're doing your thesis, you want to, especially when you're doing a group project like that, a project like that. I'm sorry, you want to do your surveys to get enough statistical data to prove your point, right? So I did the survey as to why there were so many recidivism in northern Delaware, and majority of it, I wouldn't say a large number, but a very peculiar number of men were reincarcerated because of lack of payment to their child support system. Didn't know they had a KPS out on them, so they were going back. Violations from um, combative behavior with their paramour, stuff like that. Everything that stemmed around the family court system. So, as a family court mediator, I decided to, wow, why not focus on that? So as I was focusing on that, I realized that all men had these issues because my brain was it's only black and brown men because I was looking at the CDC statistics and then realizing that, oh no, all men have this issue. It's just that the majority of the men were the black and brown because naivete set in before I started doing this. Like, it's only black and brown men doing this. But to be surprised, when people when CDC does their numbers, it's so skewed that it looks like it's only black and brown men who are affected by reincarceration. So I decided to call it Every Man. Every Man counts. So when I say every man counts, it's from my survey because it's the numbers that count. We have to look at those numbers because those numbers means a lot. It means a lot when you're looking at funding. It means a lot when you're trying to do data reporting. It means a lot when you're trying to see which population is doing better and who's not doing better. So this all was from 2012. 2014, August, we decided to put that into play. We partnered with Hope Commission and we did our first fishing trip. And it was so funny. I still talk about that fishing trip today. I'm sorry. How at the time Charles Madden was the executive director. Corey Priest was the secretary of the front desk director. Um, I met Granville Brown, Mo Hamilton, and Saad Solomon. Those are the group. That was it. Saad was with the Department of Probation and Parole. So we got a group of men together with their kids, and we took them fishing at the Brandywine.
Mhm.
And how do you call it? When we got there, Saad was our teacher. he taught the men how to fish. There was no water in the brandy wine. There was no fish in the brandy wine.
Oh no.
It was all mud. But we had about, and I always look back on that picture because from that moment, I fell in love with the program. I said, I got to do more for these men because we're right in Delaware, and many of those men have never held a fishing rod. The bonding with their children put tears in my eyes. It was so wonderful. From that moment, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that every man counts. This is our 11th year. We've developed programs in between those 11 years that have helped and built the relationships between fathers and children. We have our famous daddy and daughter dance, tea party, and sneaker ball. It's actually coming up on
It's coming
April
up.
12th.
Yeah.
Yes, April 12th. Barbershop conversation is starting up. We're going to have a barbershop conversation, which is going to be large, going to be at a barbershop. And with that, we're having a block party barbecue for our dads, which is in June. So we're having a barbershop barbecue block party. So, it's
A block party
BBBB.
sounds fun. We might have to go live from that and
Yes.
see what's up.
So it's
Yeah.
BBB barbershop barbecue block party. I think that's yes.
Nice.
I was trying to think of the they was telling me, but yeah, and then we're gonna do our fishing trip again this year. So I'm excited. I'm excited for the changes. We've created 2 new programs, actually 3. Our signature program, which was Court Smart, what we did was we added to the Court Smart. Now it's a workforce development program where we've partnered with the Department of Labor that our fathers, once we were done getting everything taken care of with them, expunging their records, getting their license, their social security cards, then they can register with the Department of Labor to get their CDL license. And, there's a lot of new things. We have the youth program for boys and girls, 15 to 21. We have the teenage and we have the young adults cohorts. We just completed our first cohort where our kids, we're going to take them to Wall Street on, I think it's the 3rd week in April when they're on spring break from school. And we're going to go to Wall Street and we sell $300 into them where they must open a bank account. So whether to put the whole $300 in there or they put 150 and 150 to invest, that's up to them. But it's a great program. And then at the end, we also teach them employment soft skills. They can either intern with the banks that we partner with, depending on the age, or get a job, with the banks that we partner with. So we're doing some great things. It's a small organization. We did not want to grow fast because, when you grow fast, what happens? You fall.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you take your time. This is our 11th year. We have proven data that we're still here. And the best thing about it, my sister was the executive director for 4 years? And she
2
did
years.
2 years? She did a fantastic, in my brain, I thought it was 4 years.
Yeah. Well, because I stayed on, because I was over there before and then I stayed on after,
Yes.
but
And
I was in my role for 2 years.
actually, she started doing stuff before she became the executive director. So that's why I said 4 years, because you have moved up here and you started doing everything. So it was fantastic. Hopefully we'll bring back Fatherhood Fridays, where we interview fathers on Fridays.
Yeah.
So it was great, and it's still going. And I thank
It's
you
still
for your
going.
100% support.
Thank you. I love it. It's a fun organization. People are always like, wait, why are women leading a men's organization? Or why are you executive director of a men's thing? Especially because I am so pro women. I'm like, because if we don't get these men in line, like they make our lives miserable. Like, what do you mean? Like, all hands on deck with men. And we
Absolutely.
need to help them to help us, right? So we need all the women empowerment groups and all the women encouragement, but we need to encourage the men too. And we need to make sure they're happy too. And we need to make sure they're in the lives of their children too, so that you're raising happy, healthy kids. Like when their men are good, they support their women well. And that is right back to the women empowerment I love so much. So it all is hands in hands for me.
And that's why I love our tagline, better dads, better lives. Because
Yep.
when our dads are better, our lives are better. And no one can tell me anything else, and everything all around is a full circle. Kids are
Hmm.
better. The paramour of the moms are better. Then here you go, the women empowerment group, so it's all about empowering each other, whether it's a male or female, is that empowerment, right? And what
Yep.
I love about what I do is encouraging the men that are doing good, shining a spotlight on them. That's why we have
Mhm.
the award ceremony every year. And we've
Yeah.
been doing that for 9 years. This is our 10th year, getting ready to do it this year, 2025, because we started that 1 year into Every Man Count is when we started recognizing people,
Hmm.
especially men in the community. Doesn't have to be, and you guys are telling us who to recognize now, because for the past 4 years we've been letting the community choose who to
Yeah.
recognize, and we've recognized people that you wouldn't even think about, that just doing the everyday thing, but are overlooked,
Yeah.
because people believe that recognition should only be when you're shining, when you're in a three-piece suit, or when you're in that six-figure job. No, recognition is the garbage picker, the guy that picks up the trash every day, but yet and still he's doing great with his children.
Yep.
Recognition is a guy that has custody of his daughter or son, and he has to make ends meet with a little bit of money that he has. Recognition is someone working in construction who has to go to work every day, but had to stay up at nighttime with his sick baby because he has to do what a parent has to do. That's
Mhm.
recognition, right?
Yeah.
Recognition is someone who has to just came out of prison and have to turn their whole entire life around, because now they have to stand up and be the man they need to be the father they need to be to that child. So you have to honor these men, because it's important. It's important to encourage positivity. You
Hmm.
know, you cannot
Yeah.
always talk down and make it seem as if, oh, he went to jail, so he's no good. You know what I tell my students when I teach? I also teach at Wilmington. You're only one step away from being incarcerated.
Everyone.
Is the
People don't realize
decision
it.
you make when you wake up that morning, depending on your circumstances. So don't sit there and criticize or ridicule someone for going to jail because you say, oh, they could have made a better choice. Well, sometimes we cannot make those choices better, right?
Hmm.
Like the
Yep.
gentleman that just got sentenced to 25 years in jail for going to rob a bank, didn't have a gun, had a paper,
Mm.
because his daughter has cancer in her brain, in her back of her eye. And he's getting ready to serve all these years in jail because all he wanted was money to take her and have this surgery.
Yeah.
Are you mad at him?
It's definitely, it's tragic and it's sad, and I think so. I love that we live in a time where we're calling out men on the BS more, because I think we live in a patriarchal society, and we
Mhm,
should. But I also think that during that time, it's important to recognize men who are doing great things. And
mhm.
often you'll find people who are doing great things are the most quiet about it. So you
Yeah.
need people to be like, "Hey, you're awesome," because
Mhm.
usually it's the ones who are like, "Look at how awesome I am," that are like, "Okay."
Mm-mm.
But
Mm-mm. Run. Run.
but it's the ones that are quiet about it that need that recognition, because as much as we want to call out the ones doing bad, like we want to be like, but hey, there are great guys. Like when we say
Absolutely.
all men, we don't really mean all men, but we need to make sure that we take the time to recognize the not all men we are talking about sometimes. So
Mhm. I
it's
know
good that
that.
you give room for that.
Mhm.
Now, something else I wanted to talk to you about with this Women's Empowerment Month as we draw to an end is I love that you are so bold about your age. You even have 50 is bold. Now,
Yes.
me, the young ingenue that I am, no, I am on the brink of 40 and freaking out. So it's so weird for me because, like, I didn't feel this way about turning 30. I was excited about turning 30. I feel like most people are like, oh my God, I'm turning 30. I was like, yes, I'm about to be 30. Like, I had heard just great things about turning 30. I had read Cosmo a lot, so I heard some things about turning 30. So I was like, yes. So like I wasn't upset about it. I was going through life changes, but I was like, this is life. This is how it is. But something about turning 40 has had me like shook a little bit. I was talking to Dee Dee the other day. Dee Dee is our younger sister, by the way. I
Mhm.
was talking to Dee Dee the other day, and I was like, I think part of it is because it feels so grown. So like, if I talk about like my years, right? I feel like in my 20s, I felt like I was cosplaying as an adult. Like I was an adult, but I didn't really feel like an adult. In my 30s, I kind of started feeling more like, okay, I'm a grown woman, as Miss Beyonce says, right? But I still feel like, but like there's something I feel like about 40 that makes me feel like I should have like just my shit together. And then I don't. And then I start freaking out. It's like I almost feel like the things that were cute in your 30s are like, okay, grow up in your 40s. And I'm like, I live in the land of cuteness. And so I don't know how to be a serious 40-year-old. But like I love following people who are older than me who show like, no, you don't have to suddenly be this person. And you can still have like, I love you, sis, but you're crazy. Like you're wild out there. But I love that about you. I see that and I'm like, great, I can keep being wild and crazy. And by the way, I love that you're wild and crazy and also a boss ass business. I know this sounds like I'm just gushing about my sister, but she's everything. She's literally everything. But like you're literally like wild and crazy and fun and traveling and doing all the things. And then you're also like boss ass businesswoman leading a corporation, doing philanthropy. Like you do it both. And I love that even while doing all of that, you're like, yeah, and I'm in my 50s. So what? But I think you need that because you have people like me who are like, I turned 40 next year. What happened? And then we see people like you and you're like, we're good. We got this.
I got this. Turning 50 was like the best thing ever, right? My children always said, Mom, you have zero filter. Now you're 50, you have zero filter.
For
You
real.
know, God prepared me for 50 because my last child left the home when I was 49. So this just gave me like room to spread my wings and do what I wanted to do and just be bold. So when I turned 50, I was like, you know what? I'm bold. I'm going to do things that I've never done before. Because I raised my children from the time I was 21. I've been raising kids from the time I was 21 to 49. So at 50 was a new era for me, like a new beginning, right? And I'm already fabulous. So I don't like that tagline 50 is fabulous or 50 is stunning. I'm bold. I'm going to be bold in my 50. Then when I get 60, I'll change the tagline. But right now, I'm bold. I
Yeah.
am 54 and loving it. I turned 50. I left the United States for almost a year. I
She
lived
traveled.
abroad.
She was just
I
like, peace, y'all.
traveled. I was Carmen Sandiego. Where in the world is Waldo and where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? That's where I
Mhm.
was. I
Yeah.
lived my life to the fullest in
And you still
2021.
are. You
Hmm.
still are because I still message you going, are you in the city? Are you in
I know
town?
everybody
What
texts
country
me
are
and
you
say, "Are
in?
you still in the
What
United States?"
country are you in right now?
But it was so, it is so funny because I bought a round trip ticket to Ghana to visit my family, and when I got there, I was like, I'm 50. I don't have any kids in my home. I turned everything over to you. My company is great. It's doing good. My sister is the executive director of Every Man Counts. Why am I going back? Let me do a little bit of traveling. And I was only going to do it for like a month.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up staying out. I didn't get back until November and then I
For
got
like a
sick.
year. She was like,
And
oh,
I,
I'm just leaving for a month.
yes. And then I
Just watch
left.
things for a month.
I left in May, came back in November, and October. And I'm like, oh my God, I was here for 1 month. It got cold. I'm like, I can't do this. And I left again. I didn't come back until
I
the
think you like
following year.
came back. We had like the year end, and then you're like, okay, bye. I was like,
Bye.
thanks.
Yeah. Bye. And I was like, so I learned so much in that 1 year that I lived outside of the country because I was in so many different countries and just learning the culture. I mean, I was in a country where I didn't even speak French like that, and I was loving it. Like
Mm.
people would say, how can you get in a cab? You don't speak French. He doesn't speak English. How did you move around? I said, smile, and just be friendly. because people will be nice to you when you're friendly. When you're judgmental and you're criticizing, you're critical of everything. But, I had the best time in Ivory Coast. I didn't have any friends there and I had posted it on social media. I'm like, I'm gonna be in Ivory Coast. I don't know anybody here, but if you know me, reach out to me. And one of my old students who lived in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, she's like, I'm on my way to Ivory Coast to see you. She flew in and we had the best time, right? And that's how I was in Ivory Coast. Then we left Ivory Coast. I went to Senegal. The Senegal was a little rough, but I made it, right? Because they were really rough with me and I was really rough with them. I think that's where I got my boldness from.
Wait, but
Because
I have a question though, because I've heard, is it the synagogue men that are hot? I have a thing for Ghana men, but I know, right? We're women empowerment, but let's talk about hot men. So where were
okay,
they the hottest?
okay, ready for this?
Yes.
Mm. Ghanaian men are a little short, and I don't like short men.
Yeah. She says that she's short herself. Both of us. We're
Yes,
both
I'm
short and we're like, we
5'1".
like them tall.
Yes, I like to look up to my man. Ghanaian men are really nice, but they're kind of short. And, you know, I was spoiled wherever I went. So when I was in Ghana, I had, oh my God. I
That's the
had
other thing about
those.
hanging out with my sister. Like, close your ears, but the men love her, right? And so like they're always like, what can we do for you, Aja? How can we help Aja? Like when I
Yes.
came to Delaware to live with her, I was like, oh, I have been living my life wrong. Like I need to change some things up. This is
Like I
fabulous.
said, you just have to know how to smile. So, so when I was in Ghana, because I went to Ghana first, and I think I stayed at my family's house maybe one night. I was in Ghana for a month. And after that, I was done. I mean, I can't even explain it. But I had a wonderful time in Ghana. And then my sorors were there too. So we just meshed. We have a West African chapter, which I'm a part of. So we just had a wonderful time. But anyway, the Ghanaian men are
She's a
nice.
Delta, by the way. Am I
Yes, I
allowed to
am.
do
I'm
the
a
Delta
Delta.
symbol? Do the Delta.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're a little short, but they're
Okay.
nice.
Okay.
Ivory Coast men, French, all the way.
Ooh la la.
Love to spoil their women. But I was in a city, and they were good. We had a really nice time. But the Senegalese men,
I've heard things.
the Senegalese
And that
men,
laughter tells me more.
the Senegalese men, dark, beautiful white teeth, tall, very tall, very, very attentive. When I say attentive, they focus on your need. Especially if you're respectful. They're very kind. I remember when we got there, I got to Senegal and it was very late and I didn't have a place to stay. And this guy, he was on a plane with me and he's like, you don't have a place to stay? I'm like, no, I don't. So he said, well, I'll get you a hotel and then I'll have my driver drop you off. And tomorrow morning, I'll come and see if you're okay. Met him on the plane, mind you. Okay, talking from one thing to another. I'm like, I've never been to Senegal. I just left Ivory Coast. He also had left Ivory Coast on business. And I'm like, I decided to come to Senegal. And he's like, really? How long are you going to be here? I said, it depends on how long my money is going to last me. So he's like, where are you staying? I said, well, I was going to get a hotel, when I get there. He said, wow, you're a brave woman. I said, yes, I am. I said, let me tell you something. This is my journey and I'm living it to the fullest. And, I don't have no regrets. If I got to sleep and I had planned on sleeping, honestly, at the airport until the next morning and going to the city and getting a hotel or an Airbnb. Because the Senegalese trip wasn't planned. Like the only trip that was planned was a trip to Ghana.
Right.
As I'm telling you this, that was the only trip that was planned was the trip to Ghana because I want to go see family. And then I decided to explore
That's the way to do it.
So he's like, okay, I'll take you. My car comes. I'll drop you off at a hotel.
By
It's a
the
really nice.
way, I love that you're so bold. I don't know if I've seen too many movies, but I'm just hearing Taken. I'm hearing the dialogue to the movie Taken as you speak. Like, that's my problem is like, I want to be bold, but I'm scared and I don't want to be trafficked.
That's why I'm bold. This is
I
the
know.
truth. And I got in the car and I just say, you know what, God, I'm 50. I've lived a good 49 and a half years.
You're like, if I'm kidnapped, I'm kidnapped. It's
If I
been good.
don't make it, I thank you for bringing me this far.
I
I
love
said
it.
the same thing in Ivory Coast because, honey, some of the places I went in Ivory Coast, you wouldn't even want to go, but I
But
went.
you
I was
really
so.
put your trust in God to test.
I
You really
do. You
tested
know,
it.
you have to see. This is what you call faith, right?
You've got it. You've got that faith.
And then plus, remember, I have a traditional African name. So a lot of them, and one thing I must say about Africans, they respect the name. And my name is Ajavon. So in Ivory Coast, Senegal, Togo, Ghana, it's a strong name because a lot of families that have those names come from wealth. So
And the
in
Ajavan is a
technic,
huge family. Like, it's a
yes,
huge, there's
they're
so many of
very
you.
huge. My great grandfather had about 100 kids, they said, and it's a French speaking country, so they're all spread out. Like my third cousin just ran for president in Benin, so it's something that is, once they see your passport, they just automatically think you're speaking French. So the little French that I do know, got me around. So the very
I
next,
only
and
know
I'm
one phrase in French, and that would get me around, but in the wrong way. So I keep it to myself.
what's that?
You know the phrase.
Oh, I know
You know
it.
the French phrase, girl.
Voulez-vous say avec soi? Okay. Um, so, the next morning he came, the hotel was very nice, I must say. Next morning he was a gentleman, very, very nice gentleman. He came and he took me around Senegal, took me everywhere, right? And I stayed in Senegal for about 2 weeks, and then I decided to go to Cape Verde. Because my son was there. So, and I was meeting a couple of people there. So we went to Cape Verde. I was in Cape Verde for a month, and which is another beautiful country, right off the coast of Senegal. Mind you, guys, if you want to go to Cape Verde, if you're in Senegal, round trip ticket is less than $300. So I was buying one-way tickets everywhere. So I went to Cape Verde, had a beautiful time. I love the country Cape Verde, but one thing I don't like, I did not know. Let me put it this way. I did not know, because I was married to a Cape Verdean. I didn't know they had dark-skinned people on the island.
They are very light
Islands.
overall, Cape Verde. And it's one of those things because people like to talk about Africa like it's a country, not a continent. It's a huge continent with lots of countries. And
Yes.
those countries also have different looks, different cultures,
Yes.
different everything. And yeah, so Cape Verde, they tend to be very light.
They do. And it's 9 islands because they were colonized by Portugal. So there's 9 islands. And depending on which island you're from, it's where the colonizer basically stayed. Like my ex-husband's from Brava. Brava is like a really mixed light skin. They're called the Barlavento Island, which is the northern islands. Is Brava, Fogo, Sal. Those islands have light-skinned people. But honey, when I got to Praia, talk about beautiful men. I said, why didn't I meet one of you guys if I met my light-skinned husband? But I digress. Kids, I'm sorry. I love my children to death. But let me tell you, I had another great time. Like I said, once you're friendly and not judgmental, because you have to understand you're dealing with another culture, and not everybody is an American. You have to be acceptable to their culture and respectful, and they will treat you like a queen. I'm telling you the truth. If you've never traveled, what you need to do is have an open mind and just be friendly, right?
Yeah. And then you
Because
can also, though, reach out to you because you also, like, she doesn't do enough things. She also helps arrange travel trips
yes,
with, what do we call it? Bougie or broke? What is it called? I came up with the name and I never remembered the
Budget
name.
or bougie travels. So
That's
you
what
can
it
travel
is.
on a budget or you can travel bougie. I travel on a budget.
We travel on a budget, but make it look bougie. That's the key.
Yes,
But
I travel
Aja,
on a
it's been
budget, make it look bougie because I meet some really nice bougie people that rather take me places and show me nice things because I'm a friendly person.
that part.
I can walk in a crowd and don't know anybody there, don't speak the language, but I can guarantee y'all make friends because that's what God has laid upon me, and I'm just that kind of person.
She really
And I
is,
love
like,
it.
literally, like, you know that song, You Never Walk Alone? Well, when you're with Aja, you never walk alone. You
No.
are swarmed by people constantly. Everybody knows Aja. You can't walk into a room. And if they don't know her, they will know her.
Before
So
I
yeah,
leave that room.
you never walk alone when you walk with Aja. But
Well, you
Aja,
know,
thank you so much for joining me tonight. Like,
yes,
I mean, we've been talking for 45 minutes already. I feel like
we
I could
have.
keep going on. I
Wow,
know.
we can go on forever.
We can, and I love that for us. We need to have more chats. I enjoy our conversations. But thank you for coming on and talking to me a little bit about being an alpha female, a little bit about what you've done for the community, a little bit about being 50 and bold. Like I said before, I think you are everything. So I love having the opportunity to talk to you, and I couldn't think of a better way to end Women's History Month than with one of my
I
personal
appreciate
heroes.
you.
One of my
I
personal heroes.
appreciate you. I appreciate you. And
Thank
don't
you.
forget, you're going to be one of my guests on 50 is Bold podcast. So
Yes, that's right.
that's
You started
coming up
to see.
soon.
She's starting a
Mhm.
podcast too. The woman doesn't sleep. But
I will
thank you
sleep
so
when I'm
much.
dead.
Thank you so much to she sleeps while
Thanks.
she's on those beaches. That's where she sleeps when she's taking all her vacations.
I thank
But
you for having me. I really
how can
do. And
people get
I'm
a
very,
hold of
very
you?
proud of you. Hmm?
Thank you. Thank you. How can people get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you?
Yes, absolutely. You can reach out to me by my phone number is 302-722-5939. You can go on Every Man Counts website. It is www.everymancounts.org. You can either go on either one of my platforms. 50 is Bold platform. That's an open platform. My business platform is Ajavon Consulting Group. If you have any international needs to do business internationally, or bring a dignitary here to the United States, please contact me, 302-722-5939. Our website is under construction right now, so that's going to be coming up. But when it do come back up, it is www.ajavonconsultinggroupllc.com.
All
So
of that.
please
There are
follow Every
multiple
Man
ways.
Counts. Follow Every Man Counts on
Come
Facebook
to our tea
and
party in
and
April.
Instagram. And don't forget to come to our tea party, April 12th from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Wilmington Police Athletic League, which is the PAL on Market Street. Okay, see you guys there.
Last year I was there and I did face paintings and I got sick because those
I
two
know.
children coughed
They
my
were
face
coughing in
out.
your face.
So I don't know.
Are you coming
if
this
I'm
year?
I don't know.
You gotta
No,
come.
I'll be there. I'll
It's
be
gonna
there.
be
I love
fun
it.
this year. It's
Yeah,
different. It's evening time, so we've sold a lot of tickets, and the tickets are
good.
$10 for a parent and child. And one thing, we're accepting moms, aunties, and grandmas this year. There's a
Yeah.
surprise for you
And the
guys.
girls look so cute. So
Didn't
come on
they?
out. Thank you again for joining me. Thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you again next week.